Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining Painting with Picasso's Grapevine. My name is Leanna Hahn, and I'll be your host and teacher for today. So every week we kind of try and give our audience, novice painters, something to kind of practice at home. So hopefully you're getting some tips, some suggestions, and you're taking the scary out of starting something at home. So for today, we're going to work on this gorgeous painting, and this is called My Inspiration. So starting to think about fall a little bit. Very simplistic in nature. As always, we kind of look at our painting and go, okay, where is our background? Where is our foreground? What do we start with? But before we do that, let's go ahead and take our quick inventory of supplies for today. We have 3 paintbrushes. We have a very large, number 12, which is my favorite. I usually always use this for the backgrounds. Then we kind of have them right in the middle, number 6 filbert, and then we have a very tiny number 1. We are using acrylic paints today. And so we've got a nice palette array of different colors. We have some red, we have some alizarin crimson, we've got some cad orange, some cad yellow, a couple dollops of white here, some phthalo blue, and some burnt umber. And as always, make sure that you have a cup of water at home so we can wash off your paintbrushes as you move from one color to the next. And as well, a nice little dab rag, because again, you don't want to have any water dripping on that beautiful painting that you've already worked so hard on. The water dripping down will rip off the paint. Now you can fix it, usually letting it dry, add a little white paint right on top of it, let that dry, and then you can go back on and fix the color that you've removed. So again, to kind of start off, we take a look at our paint and we say, okay, what's the background, what's the foreground? So in the background here, we have just a very nondescript. You know, we don't put a lot of emphasis on background because it is so far away. So it's not very tight, not very specific. So in the back here, we've got some really kind of a nice combination of some burnt umber and white, and kind of graduates up just to a hair bit of phthalo blue and white, just really, really light, a little bit of the sky blue. And then we've got some great action here. We're kind of looking underneath the tree, and we're kind of looking up through into the sky. So to get started, we're going to go ahead. I brought a blank canvas. We are working with a 16 by 20, but of course you can choose any size that you like. And we're going to go ahead and get our background going. So to do that, I'm starting with my very large number 12 filbert. Go ahead and dip that in the water. And I'm going to work with very, very light colors. So I'm starting with white, and I'm just adding just a hint of the burnt umber. Starting the other way, you'd have it much darker, and you'd have to add a lot of white into the burnt umber just to kind of lighten it up, so we're going this route instead. So let's go ahead and start getting some paint on the bottom. So this is just going to be a quick exercise in coverage. I'm going to go ahead using a lot of the back and forth strokes. With this, you don't have to worry too much about keeping your strokes back and forth. It's going to be so minimal that you're going to see this background through the tree skyline that we don't need to really put a lot of emphasis on it. So ultimately, you just kind of want it to be out there, kind of nondescript. This is a wonderful exercise in blending. Blending is going to be your best friend, your key to making a very successful painting. So I'm making sure I get up my way all the way down. I like leaving a little bit of these strokes here, so don't overwork it. If you like it, stop. And I think that's the biggest challenge with art, is I find a lot of people try to overblend, and then you end up with one flat color. Now, if that's the look you're going for, then fabulous. Keep at it. But if you like a little bit of interest, a little bit of differentiation, which I do, I will blend to a point and then stop. Now, the best blending that you're going to get where you get some of those nice streaky feels is, again, working very quickly and using wet paint. So once your paint starts to dry, you're going to lose the ability. See, like that? Very nice. Just quickly putting on the white, quickly going over top of it with the burnt umber, a few strokes, and then you stop. And that's how you achieve that nice blended feel. Now I'm working my way up the canvas. Again, keeping it very light. As you can see, we are already getting some drying down here at the bottom of the canvas, and you can see that with the dimpling effect. So we're going to continue to move on up, and I'm going to get about halfway, maybe a little over halfway. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over and work on my top of my sky and go ahead and bring down some of that nice light blue, which we're going to achieve by mixing phthalo blue and white. And again, this is going to be very, very light. We don't want a lot. We just want a hint. All right. Now, since this is a very, very light color, I'm not going to worry about moving over and washing out my brush. I'm going to go ahead and start doing a mixture with the white and the phthalo blue. Doing the same process that we did with the burnt umber and white. You're going to find a little goes a long way. So let's go ahead and move on top here. Now, if you feel that this is too dark, and I kind of do, go ahead right over it with white. As well, if you're looking to have the option to hang your painting on the wall without a frame, take this opportunity to paint the sides of your wraparound canvas. Just kind of gives you that option. If you want to just throw it up there on the wall, something fun. I also find that changing them out throughout the seasons is a lot of fun. So I tend to pick like a really nice place on the wall. I get a nice frame that has the interchangeable brackets and just kind of change it with the season. So I'll have my summer painting, and I'll have my winter painting, and my fall, and my spring. It's also a great way to redecorate. If you're looking to add some different colors in your home, always start with a nice painting. Now you'll notice as we get a little bit closer to our bottom, if you're having any troubles transitioning, grab some white. This will be a great way to make that connection between the two. And let's go ahead and finish across. Nice background. As you can see, this is a really, really quick process. As a matter of fact, you're going to get some nice workout on your arms here. A lot of quick movement back and forth. Now you'll notice also that I put a lot of pressure on the paintbrush, just getting the paint onto the canvas. Once I get the coverage onto the canvas, what I'll do is I'll normally follow up with a nice broad stroke, taking it all the way from one end to the other off the canvas. And what this does is this kind of erases any of your stops and starts, any of your little brush strokes. So if you're starting here, you see those stops and starts. To get rid of that, we just kind of go nicely right off the canvas. So that's a nice technique. Transitioning into this bottom line will become easier and easier as you practice a lot of your blending. So don't feel intimidated to go into the bottom section. I find it helpful to go down into the next color and then come back up. That helps blend the transition. You've got a nice background. Ready for our next step. So what I've done for dry time, this is acrylic paint, don't forget. So this is going to dry very, very quickly. So usually about 7 to 10 minutes and you're good to go. So what I've done is I bought another canvas that we already have prepared and kind of have it at that stage, ready to continue on. And again, we've got the nice top, we've got the nice bottom. Not worrying too much about how nondescript or generic it is because it's just going to be in the background. So let's go ahead and we're going to move over to our number 6 filbert. Go ahead and get that wet. And then dab it off on your dab rag. Get rid of any of the excess. And what we'll do is take a quick look back at our original here. So we've got so many variations here of different colors. What you're going to want to do is kind of focus the darker color towards the center and deciding what is going to be your center. So we're going to choose to make this our focal point. This is where the light is shining through. So we're kind of work around in a pattern. Then we're going to have a little center down here and some darkness through here, allowing our branches just to kind of go free form wherever they like. So again, this is a tree. My tree is not going to look like your tree, but hopefully it'll still look like a tree. So this is one very nice thing about dealing in landscapes because they are so very forgiving. As well, acrylics is all about layering. So what I'm going to do is kind of start off with showing you how to start with that first layer, and then we're going to build up. Now you at home, as always, I'm going to complete a section of this painting, and then it's up to you to kind of expand on and complete the rest of the painting. We're going to give you an idea on how to get there. Now keep in mind, the center section of the tree is going to be a little bit more dense. That's where we have the most foliage, and that's kind of what you see as the center. Then as you move out, it's going to get a little bit more dispersed, a little bit more see-through. So as you move away from what you choose or you're calling as your center, do not put your dabs very close to each other. Kind of space them out a little bit. So let's go on the bottom here. I'm going to start with the darkest color, which I have as alizarin crimson. And just kind of decide, this is going to be a center section. Then we're going to add another little center section up here. Again. Now another trick too, if you are finding that you're putting too much of a pattern into your painting, and this is not what you want to stay away from patterns, you can flip your canvas. So if you find that you're always laying your paintbrush down in the same way, force yourself to do this. You notice how I've got it rotating. A rotation here will give you a different look every time you hit the canvas. So it helps you to try and avoid getting that same pattern look. This is what you're trying to avoid because, quite frankly, nature does not have patterns. And humans are so prone to put patterns into their paintings. So I'm just kind of coming in now with the second layer, throwing out some orange, giving it some dimension, some different colors. In some areas, you're going to want to cluster these together, and in some areas, you're going to want to make them very far apart. Now I'm going to come in with my red. I started with my alizarin crimson, and I'm going to come in with my red, and we're just layering. Kind of throwing in different colors, making sure you continue to move that paintbrush. Move it in different directions. Again, some are going to be closer, some are going to be farther away, and continuing down. What's so nice about this is, again, you can decide wherever you want to put your centers or your tree line coming through. This is completely up to you. You can't mess up. This is what, truly, you cannot mess up this painting. This is a nice, easy one. Open for interpretation. Open to be whatever you want it to be. Now I'm going to go ahead and move over into my yellows. You notice I kind of started with the darkest. So I started with the alizarin. I've jumped around a little bit into orange and then the red, which are really kind of equivalent as far as depth. Now I'm going to come in and start throwing in some orange. Now the yellows. So the cad yellow, I'm going to focus around the edges more so. Because again, we're looking through the bottom of the tree line, looking up. So the assumption here is that the light is coming through closer towards the outside of the tree, not exactly in these deeper sections. So it's going to be where the spaces are that light is going to show through. And so you're going to see more yellow where you have dispersed placement of the leaves. So stay away from the center on the yellow and just kind of work your way around. Again, if you're finding you're having a challenge, having a very inconsistent pattern, change the canvas direction. If you can't control your hand, then control the direction of the canvas. And again, the technique I'm using is just a very light dabbing approach. Nothing fancy to it. Very nondescript. Just kind of moving all around. Now you can kind of change this up as far as color schemes as well. There's a beautiful array of fall colors available out there. So if you want to bring in some purples, I think our original painting had a little bit more purples showing through. You can kind of mix this up, have it match the colors in your home. Bring in, there's going to be even some greens left still on the trees. Some really vibrant, beautiful colors out there. So you get to have fun with this. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wash this off just a little bit, get rid of some of that paint, and I'm going to bring in some depth. So I'm going in now into my burnt umber, and I think I'm going to mix this in probably with a little bit of the red. So we're just going to kind of mix just a little bit because I don't want solid burnt umber, but I want a little bit. I want a little bit of depth. Now the darker colors, if you don't have it dark enough, go ahead and add some more. The darker colors we're going to focus in sparingly. So not very strong, because we do want those beautiful colors showing through. We're going to focus that in around what would be the denser areas of your tree. because we want to create some depth to that. And if you have too much, go ahead, wipe some off, as I'm doing right now, and then lighten it up. Let those little blots be very different each time they hit the canvas. Play with the placement. If you want to bring in some more of that deep alizarin crimson, kind of jumping back and forth between the burnt umber, that's a nice technique. And again, the goal here is in the center sections not to completely color it in. We just want to create some depth. So leave some spacing there. Don't go crazy too much on the center. Don't feel like you have to color it in, you have to color every spot. We're just going to give some more texture. And at this point, take a step back. Take a look at your painting. How is it looking? How's it coming out? Where do I need more coverage? Where do I need less coverage? You know, and have some of this stuff kind of come across your canvas. When it's coming across the canvas in a very light pattern, go ahead and switch over to those lighter colors as well. Because remember, the farther away from the base you want it to be lighter, closer to the base or the larger clumps, you'll allow that to be darker. Again, there's no wrong way to do this. So if you want to come in, adding a few more different colors, you really can't mess this up. So play with this until you're feeling good with it. And then what we're going to do too is the very last item that you're going to add really is going to be a little bit of white. So very sparingly, because this is a very colorful painting, go ahead, grab just a little bit of the white. We're going to add that to some of the tips. And again, we're going to keep this way out here, closer to the edge, closer to where the light would be showing through. As well, if you find you've gone too heavy in some of those sections, you want to add in some more light, kind of letting it show that maybe the sun is coming through, go ahead, that you can do that with white. So it's a wonderful patch. It's a wonderful fix. If you feel like you've kind of messed up in an area. And don't forget, make these little edges kind of shoot out. They're kind of all over the place. And at the very edge, allow these branches to kind of really thin out. So you've got the cluster here at the center. They kind of come out fairly medium as far as texture and dimension, but let them kind of come out to almost nothing there at the very edge, because that's how trees really grow. Kind of continuing through here. All right. Because the last thing we're going to do, or second from the last rather, we're going to go in and we're going to add some of the branches. Now, some people may find this very ambiguous to create clumps before they have branches. So if you want to create branches first, that's awesome. Nothing wrong with that. Again, this is a layering approach. I am choosing to go with this layer first, but you may find that working with a branch first could be your preference. So yeah, so kind of take a step back, take a look at it, say, I like it, fill in what you need. When you're ready, then we're going to move on to now I actually have two brushes here. I like to use either one back and forth. The very, very small number one, it has a flat head. I like this because it kind of draws almost like a pencil. So I'm going to use that one instead of the number one filbert. I'm going to move that into the burnt umber. And I'm just kind of going to bring up some of these nice little branches. And don't forget, branches as well are they're wobbly, they're not even. Make sure that as you're moving to the edge of the branch, it is getting thinner and thinner. And also, this is fall time, so we've got a lot of branches that are don't have any leaves on them. So it's okay to have a few out here that just kind of grow off into nowhere. and very sparingly kind of show where some of those branches are showing through and what you've chosen to be a branch where you've placed some of your nice colors here. I like it to have some fun, kind of go off the canvas, kind of moving down. Again, this is all over. You can't mess this one up. I know I keep saying that, and people at home are saying, yes, I can. But at the end of the day, you can fix it. If you put something there you don't like, go over it with the blotting and go ahead and fix it. So there, so just kind of nice examples. So then what we're going to do is the very, very last step here is we're going to go through, we're going to make that beautiful burst. Now, my paints here are probably very wet, so you generally want to wait on this step and let this all kind of dry and then come through with your nice burst. Maybe a little intimidating because you've worked this hard, but go ahead, just kind of hold your breath and go for it. I'm going to go ahead and do this right now just to show you how to do this. I'm going to be working with that number 6 filbert. I've washed it out, I'm putting a little white into it, making it very light, and then we're just going to go swoosh. Because again, this is coming across, my paint is wet right now. So I'm going to let this kind of go across, just to kind of give you the idea. You, of course, at home would let this dry before you go to this step. Now one other item, and of course I'm not going to do all the little streaks that you saw in our original, you're going to go home and kind of play with that as well, but one other item too, I like it, and just to kind of point out here, if in some places you kind of go back over top of it so that you can see the light is coming through over top of some of the branches, and in some areas it's coming through underneath the branches, so that's totally up to you. Play with your painting, enjoy it. Play with your textures, your combinations, the direction of your brushes. Really force your hand to change direction when you place it down on the canvas, and you're going to be very, very happy with what you've produced. I hope we've taken some of the scary out of painting. If you would like to learn how to paint one of these gorgeous paintings, send us an email to info@picassosgrapevine.com. Thank you for joining us.